The stars looked different here. Captain Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cool metal of the observation window and watched as the massive space station grew larger with each passing minute. The Galactic Council headquarters was unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked like a giant crystal flower floating in the darkness, with thousands of lights twinkling across its surface like tiny fireflies. "First time seeing it never gets old," said Dr. Lisa Carter as she joined him at the window. She carried a thick folder filled with papers and data tablets. Her brown hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore the standard blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Jake nodded and straightened his jacket. As captain of the human ship Unity's Voice, he had seen many amazing things during humanity's first journey into deep space. But this was special. Today, humans would officially join the Galactic Council. After 3 years of careful negotiations and testing, Earth had finally been accepted as the 848th member species. "Are you nervous?" Lisa asked, checking her watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. "A little," Jake admitted. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been chosen for this mission because of his calm nature and his ability to talk to anyone. "It's not every day you represent your entire planet." The ship's computer announced their arrival with a soft chime. Through the speakers came the voice of Commander Alex Turner from the bridge. "Captain, we're being guided to Docking Bay 7. The Council has sent an escort to meet us." Jake took a deep breath and picked up his own folder of documents. "Ready, Dr. Carter?" "As ready as anyone can be for something like this," she replied with a small smile. 20 minutes later, they walked through the airlock and into the space station. The artificial gravity felt exactly like Earth's, which was a relief. The corridor they entered was wide and bright, with walls that seemed to be made of some kind of smooth white stone. Strange symbols glowed softly along the edges, probably directions in various alien languages. Their escort was waiting for them. Jake had seen pictures before, but meeting Counselor Zekathara in person was still a shock. The being stood nearly 8 feet tall on 6 thin legs. Its body was covered in a hard shell that looked like polished black metal, and 4 arms extended from its torso. Where a human would have a face, Zekathara had 2 large compound eyes and several moving mouthparts. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Zekathara said through a small translation device attached to its chest. The voice sounded mechanical but friendly. "I am honored to guide you to the council chambers." "Thank you, Counselor," Jake replied, trying not to stare. "We're grateful for your welcome." As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Beings of every imaginable shape and size moved about their business. Some looked like walking crystals that clinked softly as they moved. Others were blob-like creatures that seemed to flow rather than walk. A few looked almost human, but with blue skin and extra arms. "Your species comes from what type of world?" Zekathara asked as they walked. Its translation device made small clicking sounds between words. "Earth is what we call a terrestrial planet," Lisa answered. "Rocky surface, 1 moon, stable orbit around a yellow star. We have a good mix of land and water." "Ah yes, water," Zekathara said. "My home world of Kethvar has some ice at the polar regions. Very precious resource. I assume your world has similar small reserves?" Jake and Lisa exchanged a quick glance. "Something like that," Jake said. He didn't want to get into details while walking through the halls. There would be time for proper explanations later. They entered a large circular room with a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of space above. Hundreds of seats were arranged in rising circles like an ancient amphitheater. Most of the seats were filled with aliens of every description. The air hummed with dozens of different languages being translated in real time. At the center of the room stood a raised platform with a podium. Above it, a holographic display showed the symbol of the Galactic Council, a spiral of stars surrounding a bright center. "The formal ceremony will begin soon," Zekathara explained. "You will be called to introduce your species to the full assembly. Do not be nervous. This is mostly tradition. Your membership has already been approved." Jake felt his heart beating faster as they took their assigned seats in a special section marked for new members. He looked around at the incredible diversity of life forms surrounding them. Some breathed different gases and sat in sealed environmental suits. Others seemed to be made of pure energy, flickering and glowing in their seats. "It's incredible," Lisa whispered. "Look at all of them. Every single one represents an entire world, an entire civilization." A deep rumbling sound filled the chamber, and all conversation stopped. At the front of the room, a massive creature rose to its feet. It looked like a cross between a lizard and a dragon, with dark green scales and intelligent golden eyes. When it spoke, its voice was so deep that Jake could feel it in his chest. "Fellow council members," the creature announced, "today we welcome our newest member species. The humans of the planet Earth have passed all required tests and evaluations. They have shown themselves to be intelligent, peaceful, and ready to join our galactic community." Jake stood up when his name was called. His legs felt a little shaky as he walked down to the central platform. The eyes of hundreds of alien beings followed his every step. He had given speeches before, but never to an audience like this. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice amplified by the room's systems. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the human species and our homeworld of Earth. We are honored and excited to join this incredible community of civilizations." He went on to give the prepared speech about human history, culture, and achievements. He talked about their art, their science, and their desire for peaceful exploration of the galaxy. The audience listened politely, occasionally making sounds that the translators couldn't quite convert. When he finished, there was a moment of silence, then a strange mixture of sounds that Jake realized was applause in dozens of different forms. Some aliens clapped like humans, others made clicking noises, and a few flashed different colors. As Jake returned to his seat, he felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. Humanity had taken its first official step into the larger galaxy. They were no longer alone. After the ceremony, there was a reception in another part of the station. Jake and Lisa mingled with various alien diplomats, exchanging pleasantries and basic information about their respective worlds. Most of the conversations were simple and friendly. "Your world sounds pleasant," said a crystalline being whose name Jake couldn't pronounce. "Rocky worlds with stable climates are ideal for development." "Yes, we've been very fortunate," Lisa agreed. "Earth has provided everything we need to grow and thrive." No one asked for specific details about Earth's environment, and Jake was happy to keep things general for now. There would be plenty of time for detailed discussions later, once humanity had settled into their new role in the galactic community. As the evening wound down, Jake looked out another observation window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a small blue dot that was now officially part of something much larger than itself. He smiled, thinking about how proud everyone back home would be when they heard the news. He had no idea that within a few weeks, that same small blue dot would shock the entire galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since the ceremony, and Commander Alex Turner was starting to feel at home on the massive space station. The human delegation had been given comfortable quarters in the diplomatic section, and most days were filled with meetings, cultural exchanges, and learning about the hundreds of different species that made up the Galactic Council. Alex walked into the station's diplomatic lounge, a large room with comfortable seating areas where representatives from different worlds could relax and talk informally. The lighting was soft and warm, and there were food and drink stations designed to serve the needs of many different species. Some aliens needed liquid nitrogen, others required pure methane gas, and a few survived on various types of radiation. He carried a cup of coffee, one of the few Earth beverages that the station's food systems could replicate. The smell reminded him of home in the small cafe near his house in Oregon, where he used to take his daughter Katie every Sunday morning. "Alex," called a voice from across the room. He turned to see Shimkara, a delegate from the Vorthan Collective. Shimkara looked like a walking collection of purple crystals, each about the size of a human hand. When she moved, the crystals chimed softly against each other, creating a musical sound. "Good to see you, Shimkara," Alex replied, walking over to join her at a low table surrounded by cushions. Also sitting there was Quindal, an ambassador from the Nephrite Republic. Quindal's species had evolved on a gas giant planet, so he wore a special environmental suit that made him look like a floating balloon filled with swirling green mist. "We were just discussing recreational activities on our homeworlds," Shimkara said. Her crystals glowed a warm yellow color, which Alex had learned meant she was happy or relaxed. Quindal was telling us about the magnificent gas storms his people surf through the upper atmosphere of their planet. "That sounds amazing," Alex said, settling down on one of the cushions. "Back on Earth, we have something similar. Well, not quite the same, but my daughter loves to surf." "Surf?" Quindal asked. His translator made his voice sound like wind blowing through caves. "What is this activity?" Alex smiled, thinking about Katie and her bright red surfboard. She rides on top of ocean waves. You know, when the water moves in big rolling motions toward the shore, she stands on a board and rides the wave as it crashes onto the beach. The two aliens were quiet for a moment. Shimkara's crystals had stopped glowing and now looked dim and gray. Quindal's misty form seemed to be swirling faster inside his suit. Ocean waves? Shimkara asked carefully. You mean waves made of water? Sure, Alex said, taking a sip of his coffee. The really good surfing spots have waves that can get 20 feet high. Katie's still learning, so she sticks to the smaller ones, maybe 6 or 8 feet. Quindal made a sound that the translator couldn't convert properly. It came out as static and beeping noises. Shimkara's crystals had turned completely black. 20 feet, she repeated slowly. You are saying that water stacks up 20 feet high and your offspring plays in it for recreation? Alex was starting to realize that something was wrong, but he wasn't sure what. Well, yeah. 20 feet isn't even that big. The really experienced surfers look for waves that are 60 or 70 feet tall. There are some places on Earth where you can find waves over 100 feet high. Both aliens went completely silent. Shimkara's crystals began making a high-pitched whining sound, and Quindal's environmental suit started flashing warning lights. Is everything okay? Alex asked, genuinely concerned. He had been enjoying his conversations with these beings over the past few weeks and didn't want to upset them. Before either could answer, Dr. Maya Rodriguez appeared at their table. She was the expedition's geologist and had spent most of her time studying the different types of worlds represented in the council. Her dark hair was messy and she looked excited about something. Alex, perfect timing, she said, sitting down without invitation. I was just talking to some folks from the Mineral Research Division about Earth's geography. Did you know that most planets in the galaxy are completely dry? Like not even underground water reserves? Really? Alex said, grateful for the distraction from his clearly upset alien friends. That's interesting. Oh yes, Maya continued, pulling out her data tablet. Even the wet worlds usually have just small lakes or maybe some ice at the poles. Earth is incredibly unusual. She looked at Shimkara and Quindal. I was telling them about our ocean trenches. The Mariana Trench goes down almost 7 miles. Can you imagine? 7 miles of water straight down. Shimkara made a sound like breaking glass. Quindal's suit began making emergency beeping noises. 7 miles? Shimkara whispered. Her voice was so quiet that Alex had to lean forward to hear her. Down? Oh, that's just the deepest point, Maya said cheerfully. Most of our oceans are only 2 or 3 miles deep on average. Still pretty impressive though, right? Quindal suddenly rose from his cushion, his suit's propulsion system lifting him into the air. I must contact my homeworld immediately, he said, and floated away quickly toward the communication center. Shimkara was still making the glass-breaking sound, and her crystals were now flashing between black and bright red. Alex recognized the red color as distress or alarm. Shimkara, what's wrong? He asked, reaching out to touch one of her crystals gently. Did we say something to upset you? Upset? She managed to say. You speak of more water than exists on 1,000 worlds. Your child plays in enough precious liquid to supply my entire planet for generations. How is this possible? Alex looked at Maya, who was staring back at him with wide eyes. They were both starting to understand that they had accidentally said something very significant. How much water does your planet have? Maya asked carefully. My homeworld of Vorth has 3 small underground reservoirs, Shimkara said. Together they contain perhaps 50,000 cubic units of liquid water. This supply must last for all time, so we use only what is absolutely necessary for survival. Each individual receives 2 units per day. Alex did some quick math in his head and felt his stomach drop. What Shimkara was describing as her planet's entire water supply wouldn't even fill a large swimming pool on Earth. Shimkara, he said slowly, I think we need to have a longer conversation about this. But the crystal being was already moving away from the table, her crystals clanging together in distress. I must report to the council immediately, she said. This changes everything. Alex and Maya sat in stunned silence as their alien friends hurried away. Other beings in the lounge had noticed the commotion and were looking in their direction. Some were talking rapidly in their own languages, and Alex could see translator devices working overtime to convert the excited chatter. Maya, Alex said quietly, I think we just made a big mistake. What kind of mistake? she asked, though her expression suggested she was already figuring it out. The kind where we accidentally told the galaxy that Earth has more water than anyone else thought was possible. Maya looked down at her data tablet, which was still showing information about Earth's oceans, lakes, and rivers. Alex, do you think they don't know? About Earth being covered in water? I don't think they have any idea, Alex replied. I think we just told them that our planet has more water than most of their civilizations have ever seen. They sat together, watching as more and more aliens began leaving the lounge quickly. The room, which had been full of relaxed conversation just minutes before, was now nearly empty. Alex pulled out his communication device to contact Captain Morrison. He had a feeling that their quiet integration period was about to come to a very dramatic end. Captain, he said when Morrison answered, we have a problem, a big one. Captain Jake Morrison was reviewing supply reports in his quarters when the emergency alarm started blaring throughout the space station. The sound was loud and urgent, like nothing he had heard during their 3 weeks aboard the facility. He jumped up from his desk and grabbed his communication device. Captain Morrison to the bridge, he called. What's the situation? Commander Turner's voice came through immediately, sounding stressed. Captain, you need to get to the main council chamber right now. They've called an emergency session. Emergency session? About what? About us, sir. About Earth, Jake felt his heart sink. On my way. The corridors of the space station were buzzing with activity. Aliens of every shape and size were moving quickly toward the council chamber, talking rapidly in their various languages. The translation devices were working so hard that they created a constant background hum of electronic noise. Jake met Dr. Carter and Commander Turner at the entrance to the great chamber. Lisa looked pale and worried, while Alex seemed like he wanted to disappear into the floor. What exactly happened? Jake asked as they walked through the entrance. I was just talking about surfing, Alex said miserably, and Maya mentioned the ocean depths. We didn't know they would react like this. React like what? Like we had just told them we had more gold than the rest of the galaxy combined, Lisa said. Except apparently water is much more valuable than gold. They entered the chamber to find it in chaos. The normally orderly assembly was filled with excited chatter, frantic gesticulation, and what looked like several heated arguments. Jake could see delegates frantically communicating with their home worlds through personal devices. At the center of the chamber, the massive dragon-like Supreme Chancellor Vorthak was trying to restore order. His deep voice boomed over the noise, but it took several minutes before the assembly began to quiet down. The emergency session will now begin, Chancellor Vorthak announced. The human delegation will present themselves for immediate questioning. Jake felt his legs go weak. This was not how he had imagined their integration into galactic society would proceed. He straightened his uniform and walked down to the central platform with Lisa and Alex following behind him. The chamber fell completely silent as they took their positions. Jake could feel hundreds of alien eyes focused on them. The weight of representing his entire species had never felt heavier. Humans of Earth, Chancellor Vorthak said, his golden eyes staring directly at Jake. There have been disturbing reports about the aquatic composition of your homeworld. We require immediate clarification. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded and stepped forward. As the expedition's chief scientist, she was the best qualified to answer technical questions about Earth. Of course, Chancellor, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. What would you like to know? Please provide precise details about the water content of your planet. Lisa activated her portable holographic projector, and suddenly Earth appeared floating in the center of the chamber. The blue marble slowly rotated, showing the white swirls of clouds and the brown and green patches of land scattered. Across its surface, the chamber was so quiet that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Earth's surface is approximately 71% covered by water, Lisa said, her voice echoing in the silence. Our oceans contain roughly 1.386 billion cubic kilometers of liquid water. The silence stretched for several more seconds. Then the chamber exploded. Aliens began shouting in dozens of languages. Several delegates collapsed in their seats. Others were frantically operating their communication devices. In one section, a group of crystalline beings began flashing so rapidly that it looked like a disco ball. Order, Chancellor Vorthak roared, his voice so loud that Jake felt it vibrate in his chest. Order in this chamber! It took nearly 10 minutes for the chaos to subside. When it finally did, Jake could see that many of the alien delegates looked genuinely shaken. Some were still communicating with their homeworlds in urgent whispers. Counselor Zekthara, their original escort, stepped forward. His insect-like form was trembling, and his mandibles were clicking rapidly in distress. 71%, he said, his translation device making his voice sound hollow. You are saying that more than 2/3 of your planetary surface is covered in liquid water? Yes, Lisa replied, confused by the reaction. Is there something wrong with that? Several more aliens made distressed noises. In the upper section of the chamber, Jake could see Shimkara's crystals flashing desperate red warning colors. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, who had been standing quietly behind them, stepped forward with her data tablet. If it helps, I can provide more detailed information about Earth's hydrosphere. No, several aliens shouted at once, but Maya was already activating her presentation. Earth has 5 major oceans, she continued, either not hearing the protests or choosing to ignore them. The Pacific Ocean alone covers about 165 million square kilometers and has an average depth of over 4 kilometers. 3 more alien delegates fainted. In addition to our oceans, Earth has approximately 117 million lakes, 3.5 million rivers, and substantial ice caps at both poles. The Antarctic ice sheet alone contains about 26.5 million cubic kilometers of frozen water. The chamber erupted again, but this time the sounds were different. Instead of excited chatter, Jake heard what sounded like wailing, praying, and in some cases sobbing. Elder Nixara of the Aquos Collective slowly rose from her seat. She was an ancient being that looked like a walking collection of blue-gray tubes filled with liquid. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries. Young humans, she said, her words translated with reverent tones. Do you understand what you have revealed? My entire species, 12 billion souls, survives on what you would consider a small pond. Our homeworld's total water supply would not fill one of your swimming pools. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. Swimming pools. They had swimming pools that were apparently larger than entire planetary water supplies. The crystalline hegemony, continued another voice from the upper chamber, has fought 3 wars over possession of a single ice asteroid. That asteroid contained less water than falls on your planet in a typical rainstorm. Lisa looked at her data tablet with new understanding. We get an average of 990 millimeters of rainfall per year, across the entire planet. Stop, whispered Chancellor Vorthak. Please just stop. But Alex, who was beginning to understand the full scope of what they had revealed, couldn't help himself. We take showers, he said quietly. Every day, sometimes twice a day. We use gallons of clean, drinkable water just to wash ourselves. The wailing in the chamber grew louder. We have decorative fountains, Maya added, staring at her tablet in shock. In our cities. Just for beauty. Water flowing constantly just because it looks nice. Counselor Zekthara made a sound that the translator couldn't convert. It came through as static mixed with what sounded like crying. We wash our vehicles with it, Alex continued, his voice getting stronger as the full absurdity of the situation hit him. We spray it on our gardens. We fill large pools with it so our children can play. Enough, Chancellor Vorthak commanded, but his voice lacked its usual authority. He sounded tired and overwhelmed. This session is adjourned while the council processes this information. As the chamber began to empty, with aliens helping their unconscious colleagues and others still communicating frantically with their homeworlds, Jake stood frozen on the central platform. Captain, Lisa said quietly, I think we need to call Earth immediately. Jake nodded, watching as the last of the alien delegates filed out of the chamber. Many of them looked back at the humans with expressions that Jake couldn't read, but that made him deeply uncomfortable. Yes, he said finally. I think our quiet integration period just ended. The human delegation gathered in their quarters after the chaotic council session. Captain Jake Morrison sat at the small conference table, staring at the quantum communication device that would connect them directly to Earth. His hands were shaking, slightly as he prepared to make what might be the most important call in human history. Dr. Lisa. Carter paced back and forth across the room, her mind racing with the implications of what they had learned. Commander Alex Turner sat slumped in his chair, still processing how his casual conversation about surfing had led to this moment. Dr. Maya Rodriguez was frantically taking notes on her tablet, trying to calculate exactly how much water Earth had compared to other worlds. Before we call home, Jake said slowly, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Maya, can you give me some numbers? Maya looked up from her tablet, her face pale. Captain, based on what the aliens told us today, Earth has more accessible water than the rest of the known galaxy combined. And I mean all of it. Every planet, every space station, every asteroid mining operation. That can't be right, Lisa said, stopping her pacing. There are 847 different species in the Council. Surely some of them have significant water reserves. I've been doing the math, Maya replied, holding up her tablet. The Aquos Collective, which apparently has one of the larger water supplies, has 12 billion people sharing what amounts to a large lake. The crystalline hegemony fought wars over a single ice asteroid. Councillor Zekthara's entire planet has less water than falls on Earth in a single thunderstorm. Alex looked up from his chair. When I told them about 60-foot waves, they thought I was talking about some kind of impossible natural disaster. They can't imagine that much water moving freely. Jake activated the communication device. The quantum signal would take several minutes to establish a connection across the vast distance to Earth. While they waited, he tried to organize his thoughts about how to explain this situation to the government officials back home. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Patricia Stone, came the crisp voice from Earth. Admiral Stone was the head of Earth Space Command and had been following their mission closely. Your message said this was urgent. Admiral, we have a situation, Jake began carefully. It appears that Earth's water resources are far more significant than anyone in the galaxy realized. Significant how? Lisa leaned toward the communicator. Admiral, this is Dr. Carter. We've discovered that water is the rarest substance in the known galaxy. What we consider normal and abundant is completely unprecedented. There was a long pause from Earth's end. Explain that again, Dr. Carter. Admiral, Maya interrupted. Most alien civilizations survive on water supplies that wouldn't fill a swimming pool. Earth has more water than every other known world combined. You're telling me that our oceans make us the richest planet in the galaxy? Not just rich, Alex said. We're apparently sitting on resources that could supply the entire galactic community for thousands of years. The communication line was quiet for several minutes. Jake could imagine the frantic discussions happening in Earth's command centers as officials tried to process this information. Captain Morrison, Admiral Stone's voice returned, but she sounded different now, more formal. Are you certain about this assessment? Admiral, half the alien delegates fainted when we told them basic facts about Earth's rainfall. They're treating us like we just announced we have a planet made of diamonds. Another voice joined the conversation. Captain, this is Senator Ryan Clark from the Space Relations Committee. What exactly do the aliens want from us? Before Jake could answer, their door chimed. Councillor Zekthara stood outside, looking more composed than he had in the council chamber, but still visibly agitated. Counselor, Jake said as he opened the door. Please come in. Zekthara entered slowly, his multiple eyes taking in the human quarters. I apologize for disturbing you, but the council has asked me to begin informal discussions about your planet's situation. Jake gestured to a chair that had been specially modified for non-human visitors. Of course. What does the council want to discuss? First, Zekthara said, settling his insect-like form onto the chair. You must understand the desperation of many council species. The Zerion Empire has been expanding aggressively for decades, claiming any world with even minimal water reserves. The drought wars of the Outer Rim have displaced billions of beings. Water scarcity drives most of the conflicts in our galaxy. Lisa sat down across from the alien diplomat. We had no idea. Earth's history books talk about wars over oil, land, even spices, but never water. Because you have never known scarcity, Zekthara replied. My species measures wealth in drops. A family that possesses a full liter of water is considered nobility. Yet you spoke of your offspring playing in quantities that could supply my homeworld for generations. The quantum communicator crackled with another voice from Earth. This is President Martinez. Captain, are we under any kind of threat? Zekthara's mandibles clicked rapidly, which Jake had learned was a sign of distress. Threat? Yes, there may be threats. News of Earth's water wealth is spreading rapidly through the galaxy. The Zerion Empire has already dispatched scouts toward your solar system. Scouts? Jake felt his stomach drop. They believe you are hoarding galactic resources. In their view, no single world should possess such abundance while others suffer. They have destroyed civilizations for far less. Senator Clark's voice came through the communicator with obvious concern. What are our options, Counselor? The Council proposes what we call the Terra Accords, Zekathara explained. Earth would become the galaxy's primary water supplier in exchange for full Council protection, advanced technology, and preferential trade status. You would essentially become the most important world in galactic civilization. And if we refuse? Admiral Stone asked, then you face the Xerian Empire alone, and possibly others. Word of your abundance will spread regardless. Every desperate civilization in the galaxy will eventually turn their attention to Earth. Maya looked up from her calculations. Counselor, what kind of quantities are we talking about? How much water would the galaxy need? Based on current Council population, perhaps 1% of your oceans could supply every known civilization for 1,000 years. You would barely notice the difference. The humans exchanged glances. 1% of Earth's oceans was still an enormous amount of water, but compared to what they had imagined, it seemed almost reasonable. There is another consideration, Zekathara continued. Your water management practices are considered wasteful by galactic standards. The Council would require oversight to prevent what they see as catastrophic waste. Oversight? Jake asked. Regulation of your rainfall collection, ocean usage, even individual consumption. The galaxy cannot stand by while beings take hour-long showers when others die of thirst. Dr. Carter stood up abruptly. Wait, our entire ecosystem depends on the water cycle. The rainfall, the ocean currents, the weather patterns, everything is connected. You can't just regulate Earth's water without destroying the planet's environmental balance. This is exactly the kind of wasteful thinking the Council fears, Zekathara said, though his tone remained respectful. Your planet somehow maintains vast quantities of flowing water when it could be preserved and distributed to save billions of lives. The quantum communicator buzzed with urgent chatter from Earth as officials debated the implications. Jake could hear multiple voices arguing about environmental protection, galactic politics, and military preparedness. Counselor, Jake said finally, we need time to consider this proposal. Time is limited, Zekathara replied, rising from his chair. The Xerion scouts will reach your system within days. The Council can offer protection, but only if Earth agrees to the accords. As the alien diplomat left their quarters, Jake looked at his team. They had gone from excited ambassadors to the holders of the galaxy's most precious resource in just a few hours. Captain, Admiral Stone's voice came through the communicator. We need recommendations. Earth's entire future may depend on the next decision we make. Jake stared out the window at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, hostile ships were already heading toward the small blue planet that had suddenly become the most important world in the galaxy. The emergency signal came at 3 a.m. station time. Captain Jake Morrison was pulled from a restless sleep by the urgent beeping of his communication device. The quantum link to Earth was already active when he answered. Captain, this is Admiral Stone. We have a problem. Long-range sensors show multiple ships heading toward our solar system. They'll arrive in less than 48 hours. Jake sat up quickly, his mind instantly alert. The Xerian Empire? That's our best guess. The ships match the profiles Counselor Zekathara provided. Captain, Earth's leadership has made a decision about the Terra Accords. Before Admiral Stone could continue, alarms began blaring throughout the space station. Jake could hear running footsteps in the corridors outside his quarters. Through his small window, he saw ships of various alien designs launching from the station's docking bays. Admiral, I think the situation just got more complicated, Jake said, pulling on his uniform. The station is in some kind of emergency mode. Dr. Lisa Carter appeared at his door, already dressed and carrying her equipment bag. Captain, Counselor Zekathara is asking for all human delegation members to report to the main council chamber immediately. Admiral, I have to go, Jake said into the communicator. We'll reconnect as soon as possible. The council chamber was in chaos when the humans arrived. Instead of the usual orderly assembly, delegates were rushing around frantically. Many were wearing what appeared to be emergency gear, and several species had activated personal defense shields. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak stood at the center platform, his massive form radiating authority even in the midst of chaos. When he saw the humans enter, he gestured for them to approach. The Xerian Empire has accelerated their timeline, he announced without preamble. They are bringing a full battle fleet to claim Earth's water resources. We have perhaps 2 days before they arrive at your homeworld. Commander Alex Turner stepped forward. What does that mean for Earth? It means, said a new voice, that your planet faces conquest or destruction. The speaker was an alien Jake had never seen before. Tall and thin, with silver skin and 4 arms, the being wore elaborate robes that seemed to shift colors as it moved. Its voice carried an air of absolute authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Yextar of the Zerion Empire," the being continued. "I have been sent to negotiate Earth's surrender before our battle fleet arrives." The human delegation exchanged worried glances. Jake stepped forward, trying to project more confidence than he felt. "Admiral, Earth is under Council protection as a member species." "Protection?" Yextar laughed, a sound like breaking metal. "The Council cannot protect a world that possesses more water than the rest of the galaxy combined. Such abundance belongs to all beings, not hoarded by a single species." Chancellor Vorthak's deep voice rumbled through the chamber. "Admiral Yextar, Earth has not yet agreed to any terms regarding their water resources. Until they do, they remain under Council jurisdiction." "Then perhaps," said a clear, strong voice from the entrance, "it's time we made our position clear." Everyone turned to see Dr. Maya Rodriguez walking into the chamber, but she wasn't alone. Behind her came a group of humans that Jake didn't recognize, all wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Admiral Stone?" Jake asked in surprise. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Stone replied, removing her helmet as she approached the central platform. "President Martinez decided this discussion required Earth's direct participation." Admiral Stone was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in charge of Earth's space program for over a decade, and had personally overseen humanity's first contact protocols. Behind her were Secretary of State David Kim, Chief Environmental Scientist Dr. Robert Taylor, and General Linda Hayes from Earth's Defense Force. "How did you get here so fast?" Lisa asked. "Experimental quantum transport," Secretary Kim replied. "We've been working on it for years, but this seemed like the right time for a field test." Fleet Admiral Yextar studied the new arrivals with obvious displeasure. "More humans will not change the situation. You cannot defend a water world against the full might of the Zerion Empire." "Maybe not," Admiral Stone said calmly, "but we're not planning to defend it." The chamber fell silent. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "Surely Earth wasn't planning to surrender? We're planning to share it," Stone continued, "but on our terms." She activated a holographic projector, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images of Earth's technology. Jake saw water purification plants, desalination facilities, atmospheric water generators, and systems he didn't recognize. "Earth proposes the Galactic Water Initiative," Admiral Stone announced. "Instead of simply shipping water to thirsty worlds, we'll share the technology to create sustainable water systems throughout the galaxy." Dr. Taylor stepped forward, his enthusiasm obvious even in the tense situation. "We can teach your worlds how to extract water from their atmospheres, how to purify contaminated sources, how to create closed-loop systems that recycle every drop." "Impossible," Yextar scoffed. "If such technology existed, the water crisis would have been solved long ago." "The technology exists because we developed it in abundance," Secretary Kim explained. "When you have more water than you know what to do with, you get very good at managing it efficiently." Chancellor Vorthak leaned forward, his golden eyes focused intently on the human delegation. "You would share this knowledge freely? In exchange for full council membership, protection from aggressive empires, and a guarantee that Earth's environmental systems remain under our control," Admiral Stone replied. "We'll establish training centers, send technical teams to help implement the systems, and yes, we'll provide direct water shipments to worlds in crisis." "But," Dr. Taylor added firmly, "Earth's oceans, rainfall, and water cycle remain untouchable. We won't destroy our planet's ecosystem to supply the galaxy." Yextar's silver skin had taken on a darker tone. "The Zerion Empire will not be satisfied with promises of future technology. We require immediate access to Earth's water reserves." "Then you'll have to fight for it," General Hayes said quietly. She was a small woman, but her voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "Earth has some new defensive technologies we'd be happy to demonstrate." "You would risk war over water?" Yextar demanded. "We would risk war to protect our world," Admiral Stone replied, "but we'd prefer to solve this problem peacefully." Commander Turner had been listening quietly, but now he stepped forward. "Admiral Yextar, what if I told you that using our technology, your empire could generate more water in 10 years than you could take from Earth in 100? The Zerion leader paused, his forearms twitching slightly. "Explain." Our atmospheric extraction systems can pull water from even the driest air, Dr. Taylor said enthusiastically. Our solar desalination plants can process unlimited salt water. We can teach you to create water where none existed before. For several minutes the chamber was quiet except for the sound of Yextar communicating with his fleet through a personal device. Jake could see the alien leader's expression changing as he spoke. Finally, Yextar looked up. My fleet commanders are interested in this proposal, but we require proof. Admiral Stone smiled. Counselor Zekthara, would the planet Kethvar be willing to host a demonstration? Zekthara's mandibles clicked rapidly in excitement. You would test your technology on my homeworld? We brought a prototype atmospheric water generator with us, Dr. Taylor said. In 72 hours, we can show you exactly what human water technology can accomplish. Chancellor Vorthak stood to his full, impressive height. The Council will vote on Earth's proposal.
All in favor of the Galactic Water Initiative?
Jake watched in amazement as alien hands, claws, tentacles, and appendages rose throughout the chamber. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Yextar, Chancellor Vorthak said formally. Will the Zarian Empire accept this alternative to conquest? The silver-skinned alien was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke. My fleet will remain at the edge of your solar system while the demonstration proceeds. If your technology proves effective, the Zarian Empire will consider joining this initiative instead of pursuing military action. 6 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the space station, watching as the first human water technology transport departed for the desert world of Aridnex. In the past half-year, Earth's atmospheric generators had brought regular rainfall to 12 previously water-starved worlds. The transport ship carried not weapons or conquered resources, but hope. Human engineers were aboard, ready to teach alien civilizations how to create the water they desperately needed. Dr. Carter joined him at the window. Hard to believe it all started with Alex talking about surfing. Jake smiled, thinking about his daughter back on Earth, who still rode waves every weekend, completely unaware that her hobby had helped prevent an interstellar war. Sometimes, he said, watching the ship disappear into the stars, the most ordinary things turn out to be the most extraordinary. Behind them, the latest reports were coming in from worlds across the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy's water crisis was not getting worse. Thanks to Earth's abundance and willingness to share, it was actually getting better. The blue planet that had shocked the galaxy with its impossible wealth